We'd like to give a big thank you to our sponsor, Northwestern Mutual, Eves Financial Group.
Hi Augusta, it's Abby Mufeld with Chronicle Media at AugustaChronicle.com. Thanks for joining us today for another episode of Cooking from the Heart in Augusta. Today we're hanging out with Hannah Funch, who's going to be showing us one of her favorite family recipes. I believe it was made by her grandmother. It's an Italian coconut cream cake recipe. She'll be able to tell us a little bit more about it. She's actually over there right now getting everything prepared, so let's go in and help her and get started. Alright, so we're here in the kitchen with Hannah. Hannah, thank you so much for having us today. So tell us a little bit about this family recipe you're going to make.
My grandma, we called her Lolo. She absolutely loved sweets. There was not a sweet that she would not say yes to. And so to her benefit, she was also a very good baker. Okay. And so we have, now that she's passed, we found all of her recipes sort of stashed in journals or other cookbooks or things like that. And so I have a copy in her handwriting of one of her favorites, which is the Italian coconut cream, and we were just commenting on how beautiful her handwriting is.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
I wish my handwriting looked like that.
I know, and
that's so special that you have all of those recipes, especially in her handwriting.
I know, and her handwriting just, it evokes so many memories. It's like a smell almost, you know, handwriting is just, I can see her sitting there with her pen. She was the woman who, if you didn't write a thank you note for your Christmas gift, you didn't get Christmas gifts the next year. So she taught us the value of a thank you note and the value of a handwritten recipe.
Those are very important values.
Yes.
Right.
So we are going to make her Italian coconut cream cake tonight.
Well, I'm so excited. That sounds delicious. So.
It is delicious. It's definitely not one you want to eat every night, though.
Okay. Okay, so what is the first step, Hannah? Okay,
so the first step to any type of baked good is creaming your fats. So today we have shortening and butter, and cream it with your sugar. So that's what we're going to do first. We're going to put the shortening in, and this has equal parts shortening and butter. And make sure, it's only half a cup. Make sure that they're at room temperature, otherwise they won't cream. And then we're going to cream it with our sugar, and this just has white sugar in this recipe. And so a good rule of thumb is to cream and then keep creaming. You can't over cream them together. So you get it going, and you're waiting for it to be very well mixed and a little fluffy. After they are fully creamed, we will add 5 eggs. You add them one at a time until they're fully incorporated. I like to crack my eggs into just a little bowl. That way you can be sure that no shell gets into your mix, and I'm not coordinated enough to crack it on the side.
I wouldn't be either. And, so you keep it on a nice low setting too, so it's just...
You just add your eggs in one at a time, and you wait for each egg to be fully incorporated.
Okay.
The wonderful thing, or the wonderful thing, if you think it's wonderful, about baking is that it's very scientific. It's all chemistry. And so each ingredient has to have a chance to work and interact with the other ingredients to get the right consistency for your final product. So the next step here is to sift together your flour and your baking soda. Okay. I just use the back of a butter knife to level it off, because baking is about chemistry. The measurements have to be exact. So, and then they're nice enough to include a cardboard little thing in the baking soda. You just sift it together. Give that a little stir. Now, we have 1 cup of room temperature buttermilk in our flour and baking soda mixture, and we're going to add them alternately. And whenever you add liquids and flour alternately, you always start and end with flour.
Really? Okay, I did not know that. So about how much do you do? Just like a little scoop?
About, this will take me about 3 dollops.
Okay.
So I just have to have 4 of these. And they don't have to be exact and they don't have to be the same. So, and you want to keep this on a low speed or the flour will go all over you. And you just stir it until the flour is incorporated. And you don't see it anymore, and then you add some buttermilk.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just repeat. So once this step is done and it's incorporated, because with cakes you really don't want to really overmix them. So at this point I take it kind of off the mixer, because at this point the cake is made. So now all we're adding are the extras, which are, for this cake, this is like a basic white cake base. So for this cake we're adding the coconut and the walnuts. So I like to give it kind of scrape it off the bottom, make sure everything's up. And then we have some chopped walnuts, which if you have the time, if you toast them in the oven for just a little bit, it adds a very nice deep flavor note.
That is nice.
And I know I've said that quite a few times, but
just a little bit of a different flavor to it.
Yes. And
what about the coconut? Have you ever done that with it as well, to toast it?
I do. I've toasted it for like the garnish on the top. Like sometimes I will coat the whole outside with coconut, like just push it up against the icing, and then put the toasted coconut just on the top. Yeah, I made Samoas one time.
Really?
Yeah, and
those are my mom's favorite.
they're very easy to make, but very time-consuming.
I would imagine.
But they were really, really, really good. Now we don't need quite all of this, but you know, a little extra coconut never hurt anybody.
Definitely
not. You're just gonna gently fold this in, and just, because at this point the flavor is pretty set, and so this is gonna go into 3 8-inch pans. So we're gonna have a tri-layer cake, and so we are going to prepare the pans with baking spray and flour, and some genius combined the two. So you no longer have to flour your pans if you buy the baking spray that has the flour already in it.
What a genius.
I know.
That's really cool.
I know. I found cooking spray that has the flour already in it, which makes the whole job of flouring the pan significantly easier. So if you don't have this, you want to make sure that you definitely flour the pans, because if you don't, they could stick. You just generously spray them down. If you have parchment paper and you line the bottom, that works as well. Just make sure you spray the top of the parchment paper. So you're just going to divide your batter up as evenly as possible. I eyeball it. You want to err on the side of not too much at the beginning, so that you have enough to make 3 relatively equal cake portions. Okay, so once you get all your batter out, just go through and smooth it. My grandma always told us that after you get it smooth, you bang the pan on the counter, so that it settles into all the nooks and crannies and it gets all the air bubbles out. So I always do that. I bang it on the counter. So I just drop them on the counter and it gets the air bubbles out. Alright, so these are going to go into a 350 degree oven for 25 minutes or so. Okay, so while the cake is baking, we are going to make the cream cheese icing. Now my current cream cheese icings, you'll see have equal parts cream cheese and butter. Grandma liked her cream cheese, so it has almost double cream cheese to the butter. So that's what we're gonna do. So you just take your butter and once again, we are going to cream together the butter and the cream cheese, the 2 fats. So it has basically 2.5 packs of cream cheese. And just let them go. Now you're just mixing these basically. With some vanilla. Always need vanilla.
Now I'm noticing that the chemistry is not quite exact on the vanilla for this one.
Correct. My grandma was all about dollops. That was one of her favorite words, is a dollop. And so that was a dollop of vanilla. So then we're gonna add powdered sugar. You don't add regular sugar to your icings because it's too granulated. It comes out grainy, it doesn't spread well. So you always want powdered sugar. And this has 2 pounds. And you add it slowly or you're gonna end up with a face full of powdered sugar. Now if your cream cheese icing gets really thick, based on the time of year, the humidity in the air, all that wonderful stuff, you can add heavy cream, just a couple dollops of heavy cream. You don't want to add too much though, because you don't want your icing to be too liquidy. Now, after it's mixed, if you speed it up, then you get air into your icing, and so it's like a whipped icing. So it's a little bit lighter. Okay, so they came out a nice golden brown. You can typically leave them in the pan for about 10 minutes. That gives the pan enough time to cool down enough to where you can flip them out. I don't like to flip them on the top side because when you take it off the cooling rack, it pulls all of the goodness off with it. I like to flip it. I'll flip it in my hand first and then put it on the cooling rack to where the sturdier side is down on the cooling rack. But you know it's ready. It'll naturally pull away from the sides of the pan. You won't have to cut around it unless you're making a really liquid-based cake or more of a tart or a pie. So they're ready to be iced. So I have this handy dandy turntable that makes icing a breeze. So what I do is I put my cake plate on top of the turntable, and then I can turn the cake plate while I ice. So it makes the whole thing very easy. Now if you have a cake plate or a serving dish that is going to be slick, you might want to start with a little bit of icing and just put it there. It acts like a glue. And then you put your first layer down. I like to put them cook side or top side down. It gives you a flatter surface to ice. Now if you look in, you can see the walnuts, you can see some of the coconut, and it smells delicious. So good, I hope it is delicious. So you just put a dollop. You notice that a dollop has various sizes. Dollop and a half. And then with an offset spatula, before I invested in this one, I honestly used a butter knife. It took a long time to ice cakes, but it was way better than any other knife. And you just sort of go back and forth. And this is why the turntable is a lifesaver, because it just seamlessly turns it. Now, I need a little bit more. You want to go kind of conservatively between the layers to make sure that you have enough to ice the whole top of the cake. Now, if you double the icing, because you are an icing person, I'm only an icing person if it's cream cheese icing, otherwise you can leave it off. Then go nuts with it.
Okay guys, this is the big moment. Hannah, are you ready?
I am.
Okay. This is delicious.
Thank you, it is good.
I love the cream cheese. The little crunch that the walnuts give it is perfect. Thank you so much for showing us how to make this. Your grandma was a smart lady.
She was, thank you.
All right, thank you to our viewers. I hope you enjoyed it. Come back and watch us again at Cooking from the Heart in Augusta. Bye.
Thank you again to our sponsor, Northwestern Mutual Eves Financial Group.